Whether we know it or not, we have all been touched by Tennessee Williams. Wait. That did not come out right. Like Tennessee, New Orleans is my spiritual home.
America has only 3 cities: New York, San Francisco, and New Orleans. Everywhere else is Cleveland.
But I do know for certain that his work, his words, and his life have touched me profoundly. And in a way, saved me.
There comes a time in your life when you look into the mirror and you realize that what you see is all you'll ever be. And you accept it, or you kill yourself, or you stop looking in mirrors.
Great to talk to you this morning, and we're looking forward to seeing you in the flesh very soon because you're coming to Provincetown for the Tennessee Williams Festival to do your one-man show, Dear Mr. Williams. Now, without giving it all away, in your own words, could you tell us briefly what it's about?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm only doing excerpts from it. It's going to be a reading, but I'll know my lines, I hope, since I wrote it. It's my little story of growing up in New Orleans, my coming of age story in New Orleans, in a society that really, I knew no one. I mean, you'd think in New Orleans, there would be that. There is in the French Quarter, but you go outside of the French Quarter in uptown New Orleans and the Garden District and all these other very conservative areas. And it was not talked about. I knew no one. But after I saw my first Tennessee Williams play, something clicked in my head. And through growing up and reading his work and seeing his work, he kind of guided me to be who I was going to be. And I ended up writing him a letter when I was in college because I was so confused. And I mean, I would have this beautiful girlfriend. I would be with her, then go to the French Quarter and find a guy, drive very slowly. And when you're 21, well, and I was 20 or 19 or 20, when you're a somewhat attractive 20-year-old man driving, they jump in the car. So
I missed out.
But it was, I was so conflicted, and I wrote Tennessee Williams a letter saying, I've even thought about suicide. I'm tormented. I don't know what to do. And he didn't respond because I wrote it right before he died. He never saw it. So the letter came back, returned to sender. And I was holding it. It was like the arrow was just pointing. And I know this might sound ridiculous, but it was pointing towards the door. And I went, I've got to get out. I've got to get out. And I already had been to New York to visit once or twice, and I loved it. And I knew I wanted to be an actor. And it was just one of those things that just motivated me. But throughout the play, I'm telling my story, but it's also through Tennessee Williams' words. So I searched all through his plays, his films, his interviews, his poetry, you name it, short stories, everything, and found clips and great quotes of his that would forward the story on and get me to a certain place, and then would have arguments, and it was one of the most organic things I've ever done. It started as a benefit for the Tennessee Williams Festival down here. It was the tricentennial of New Orleans, and every year they do a tribute reading, and they'll pick some things of Tennessee Williams with a theme, like the Italian Summer of Tennessee Williams or whatever. And I went to the head of the festival, and I said, Paul, it's the tricentennial of New Orleans, and this was his spiritual home. He had homes here all of his life. He goes, why don't you write something? And that's how it started. And Betty Buckley was at the first reading. She's a dear friend, and she ran down the aisle, grabbed me by the shoulders, and she said, you have to keep on working on this. This is great for you. This is going to be great. So we finally did a full production in New Orleans to open up the wonderful theater, Le Petit Theater, where that gave me my start. And I was on the board. Now I'm an emeritus board member. And to open up the theater after COVID. And producers were there and loved it. And we just have finalized with the Tennessee Williams estate the rights to do it because it's so convoluted. But it takes a while. Like I have a dear friend whose play is opening on Broadway in June 12th, Call Me Izzy, and with Gene Smart starring. And it's taken him over 10 years to get that there. So I'm getting a little impatient, but
So Betty didn't say, is there a part for me in it?
yes, no, there's no. There's one.
I think that's probably more Patty LaPone.
Yes. Well, the good thing about it, I did have one producer come up to me afterwards, and she said, Have you ever thought of adding other people to the play? I mean, that would
Um,
not make it a one-man show, now would it? Yeah.
so you must be quite experienced. You lived there in New Orleans. I've been shocked as an outsider about the depth and the width of his work.
Oh,
You?
yeah. It's amazing. I mean, I found quotes that were buried. Recently, the most recent publications, they found his notebooks,
Oh,
and they were scribbles, they were, all these kind of things. And it was towards the end, it was kind of, some of these you could possibly say these are the scribblings of a madman, but
yeah.
still was brilliant. And one of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to not do it directly right now, because you reach a point in your life when you look in the mirror and what
Yeah.
you see is all you're ever going to be. Now, either you accept that or you kill yourself or you stop looking in mirrors. And I'd never heard that. Now, some people
Yeah.
might already know that. But one of my favorite things I found in there was my family's been down here for a long time. My great-grandfather, my my great grandfather started an ice company, around the early 1900s or late
Mm.
1800s, a good thing to do in a swamp. And my grandfather, when it was going, he was driving the horse-drawn cart down St. Charles
Mm.
Avenue. And on the other side, he was delivering ice. And on the other side, he saw a Model T come by with a refrigerator. He's like, got to get out of this business.
Yeah.
And there was this fledgling amusement park in the Spanish Fort, which was kind of like the resort area on the lake. And he convinced his father and brother to pool all the resources and buy it. And it started to be a success. And then the WPA came in. My grandfather put a pitch into the city to build a gorgeous deco amusement park at the foot of Elysian Fields. And they bought it, and built Pontchartrain Beach, was this iconic amusement park down here. Everyone who lives of the Gulf South loved it. But I found out as I'm reading the stage directions in Streetcar,
Yeah.
at one point, uh, Tennessee wrote, Mitch and Blanche come back from their date. She's carrying a Cupid doll that you must probably get at games of chance at an amusement park on Lake Pontchartrain. And that was my grandfather's amusement park. And it just went,
You, and you didn't get paid for the credit.
no, I don't think. Well, what we're dealing with the finding the decision with the estate. Well, first of all, it took them a year to read it, which was kind of like, come on. But they're in London, so and then it's just the timing going back with the lawyers.
Yeah.
But basically, what the decision was 2/3 of the words are mine and 1/3 are Tennessee Williams. So the royalties are split up evenly like that. I think they must have counted the words, but
Jesus. Brian, do you think you're aware of Williams being in Provincetown? Do you think if you wrote about that, it'd be more like a porn novel?
There are some letters. There was a play that God, what's his name? He played John Boy Richard. Richard, yes, he was
Mm.
so wonderful. But there's a play he did called A Distant Country Called Youth.
Yes.
And it's the letters, all Tennessee Williams letters.
Mm.
And one of them is quite explicit
Yeah.
about he went to must have been like the Y or a bathhouse or something like that. And he was like counting the numbers of male genitalia that he entertained and the different descriptions of them.
Mm.
But yeah, he was quite the sexual, predator, I guess. But
Yes.
that was a different
Are
time.
are you a P-Town virgin?
No, no, no. I performed there once. I did my show Bat on a Hot Tin Roof at the Art House for my friend Mark Cartale.
Yes.
And then my friend Patricia Clarkson and I were supposed to read love letters there one summer, but I got a film and I couldn't, I had to back out. And then I went another time to film a wonderful film called High Art.
High Tide.
High Tide. What am I saying? High Art was Patty's movie. Okay.
Marco's.
High Tide.
Marco's. I know Marco.
Marco, oh, he's lovely, isn't he? And he's so great in
Be watching this and he'll be
the
killing.
Four Seasons. Isn't he great? He is lovely. Both those Marcos.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I would hold camera. They are so gorgeous. They are wonderful, talented, and so kind. And I
Such a
had the
sweet
best
movie.
time filming. And I
Such a
fell
sweet.
in love with P-Town
Yeah.
even more while filming that because it was the off season. It was the end of September, beginning of October, and it was just glorious. I just loved it because it wasn't full of the madness. There was little madness,
No.
but I don't like huge crowds. I don't know. I like an orchestra pit between me and the crowd.